This may well be the loveliest statue of our Blessed Mother in the country. Everyone thinks so wherever I travel. But Our Lady is not going around our country just so that everyone can admire a beautiful statue. She came to earth with a very critical message. The importance of this message was backed up with the most spectacular public miracle in history. And today, a large number of Catholics don't know the story of Fatima. Pope Benedict last week in Fatima said the message is still important. It's not over yet. Our Lady came down at the request of Pope Benedict XV, who was praying, had the world praying, the children of Rome praying for peace during World War I. And she came down to tell us what was causing war and tribulation and how to end it and bring peace. And 93 years later, we're worse off than we were when she came. We're better off in one way. The Cold War ended, and it ended only when we did what Our Lady asked. She made several dire predictions if her requests were not fulfilled. She said there would be a second world war worse than the first. She said that millions of innocent people, millions of Christians would be martyred and murdered. Think about the murder of the babies going on continually in the world through abortion. She said that Russia would spread atheism all over the world. Look at the efforts of our American government to push Jesus out of our culture, to push God out of our culture, that intensified every year. And she gave a vision in which the Pope was walking through a devastated land with the bodies of martyrs all around him, climbing a hill toward the cross when he was shot and killed. Finally, she said whole nations would be annihilated if what she asked wasn't done. We've had the Second World War, we've had the Holocaust, we've had the spread of atheism all over the world. I mean, generally the nations of the world are trying to get God out of all their cultures. Even the Catholic countries like Spain and Portugal, the governments are working to get God out of their cultures. South America, everywhere. It's just overtaking the world. And the world will become hell on earth if we don't believe in God. Because without God, nobody's got any reason not to be selfish. They've got no reason to be generous and charitable. If this is all there is, look after ourselves. That's what happened to Russia. We were warned about that by Vladimir Putin, former head of the KGB, last spring. That he grew up in a hellish Russia, which never should have been. And he warned the United States that if we continued on the path that we are on, we would end up like Russia, destroying our country. Amazing from a guy who was the head of the KGB of Russia 25 years ago. They're coming back to the faith because finally the consecration of Russia was made. The rest of the world is drifting away continually. So Our Lady came down to tell us what to do. She warned what would happen. Finally, she asked for the consecration of Russia to prevent all of this. Russia was consecrated in 1984, March 25th. Immediately there was a change in the government in Russia, a kinder, gentler premier got in and began making some changes, and everything fell apart, and they lost the communist hold on Russia, and the people became free. The former head of the KGB became president, the second president of Free Russia. He immediately went on television, broadcast all over Russia, and bowed down and kissed the icon of Kazan, the image of the Blessed Mother, Queen of Russia. President of Russia, officially submitting the government of Russia to the Queenship of Mary. And he had a bunch of government officials with him who lit blessed candles and placed them in honor in front of the icon of Kazan, the holiest icon of Russia. And today in Russia, they are teaching prayer and religion in the public schools. And they're putting up religious decorations on religious feast days in the public schools and in the public office buildings and all over the country in their public squares. They're bringing the faith back. They said they're restoring the Christian culture of Russia. But still, what happened is we didn't pay attention to the full message of Fatima. We concentrated on getting the Pope and the bishops to do their part. Meanwhile, the rest of the world was subverted because the consecration of Russia took too long. When the Holy Father was shot and he read the message of Fatima and he looked at the third secret and saw the Pope being shot and he realized that was himself, he realized it was too late to stop Russia from polluting the world with atheism. That's why he made the controversial decision, controversial with some, not with all of us, of extending the consecration from Russia to the whole world. He had all the bishops join with him, as Our Lady asked, on the same day. They consecrated Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and they extended the consecration to the whole world because he realized it was too late. The Second World War had already come. The Holocaust had already come. Millions and millions of Christians had already rejected the faith. Adolf Hitler was an altar boy in his youth. Vladimir Putin was baptized by his mother. Yeltsin and Gorbachev were baptized by their grandmothers. Joseph Stalin was studying for the priesthood in his youth, hoping to be a priest. They gave it up. This was all Christians turning against the Christian faith and turning against fellow Christians, trying to destroy our faith, all during the 20th century. But I think that the annihilation of nations was prevented by the papal consecration. Our Lady also gave a vision of the Pope being shot. Every warning that she gave came to pass except the annihilation of nations. The only way I can think that would have happened is a nuclear war between the United States and Russia. As soon as the consecration was over, communism fell in Russia, and that threat passed us by. But Our Lady said that was going to happen, so if we hadn't made the consecration, we would likely have ended up in a nuclear war. So where are we today? Russia's coming back. The rest of the world is drifting away. And we've got a war on terrorism. Our Lady said war is the result of sin. And the Muslims tell us that they feel a need to crush the United States because we are exporting to the world, to their children, a godless culture, a culture that makes fun of God, that ridicules God, that exalts immorality, the immoral lifestyles. And we're increasing in our immorality and in our export of that culture to the world. And their children are absorbing that culture and losing their faith. And we know it's true because this is why so many of us homeschool our children, to protect them from our own American culture. So what do we have? We haven't done what Our Lady said, and that's why we are where we are. And George Bush, when he was president, said the war on terror is going to go on for a very long time. Yes, indeed. It can go on for 100 years. We've got to change our culture and bring it back. Now, before Our Lady came, she sent an angel. The angel came down and told us how to begin the process of peace. And everybody ignores the angel because Our Lady came later. They all look at Our Lady. You speak about Our Lady's peace plan. Our Lady's peace plan was given by the angel. Nobody pays any attention. So they focus on the rosary. The angel didn't mention the rosary. He came down and said the first thing we have to do when he appeared to the three children, the first thing we have to do is we have to pray for the conversion of sinners. We have to get rid of sin. Pray for the conversion of sinners and offer sacrifices for them. Without sacrifice, there's no conversion. That's why Jesus died on the cross. He asked God to let the chalice pass, but God revealed to him, assured him that without his sacrifice, the souls could not be converted and saved. So he willingly accepted the sacrifice of the cross. But he asked us to take up our cross and follow him. We are the extension of Jesus down through history as his mystical body. Our mission is to offer prayer and suffering for the salvation of our brothers and sisters who are going to be otherwise lost to hell. Our Lady showed the vision of hell to the children in July. She said, pray and offer sacrifices so they will be converted and will not be lost.